You hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time. And your brain is working overtime to pretend you don't. You believe you're a good person. And you also do things that contradict that belief. You know smoking is bad for you. But you smoke anyway. You value honesty. But you lie when it's convenient. You want to be healthy. But you skip the gym and eat poorly. And instead of acknowledging the contradiction, your mind does something fascinating. It rewrites reality to make both things true. This is cognitive dissonance. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological discomfort you feel when you hold two conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes at the same time. Or when your behavior contradicts your beliefs. Your mind doesn't like contradictions. They create tension, discomfort, a sense that something is wrong. So your brain has two options: change your behavior to match your beliefs, or change your beliefs to match your behavior. And here's the thing, changing behavior is hard. It requires effort, discipline, sacrifice. Changing beliefs? That's easy. You just rationalize. You convince yourself that the contradiction isn't actually a contradiction. That there's a reason it makes sense. That you're the exception. And most of the time, you don't even realize you're doing it. Because cognitive dissonance happens automatically. Below your awareness. Your brain smooths over the conflict so you can keep functioning without the constant discomfort of knowing you're contradicting yourself. But the dissonance doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under layers of justification. Cognitive dissonance is everywhere. Once you know what to look for, you see it constantly. Example 1, the good person paradox. You believe you're a good person. Kind. Ethical. Fair. But then you cut someone off in traffic. Snap at a coworker. Ignore someone asking for help. Instead of thinking, maybe I'm not as good as I thought, your brain rationalizes. They were driving too slow. They deserved it. I was busy. The behavior stays. The belief stays. And the dissonance is resolved by reframing the behavior as justified. Example 2, the health contradiction. You know exercise is important. You value your health. You say you want to be fit. But you don't work out. You eat poorly. You skip the things you know would help. Instead of admitting, I don't actually prioritize my health, you tell yourself, I'm too busy. I'll start next week. I'm healthy enough. The behavior doesn't change. The belief doesn't change. But the story you tell yourself makes both seem compatible. Example 3, the relationship dissonance. You stay in a relationship that makes you unhappy. You know it's not working. You know you'd be better off leaving. But you don't. And instead of acknowledging the contradiction, you rationalize. It's not that bad. Things will get better. I've invested too much to leave now. The discomfort of staying is real. But the discomfort of admitting you're choosing to stay is worse. So you adjust your perception. You minimize the problems. You focus on the good moments. And the dissonance quiets. For a while. So why does your brain do this? Because contradictions threaten your sense of self. You have a story about who you are. A self-image. An identity. I'm a good person. I'm smart. I'm in control. And when your behavior contradicts that story, it creates a crisis. If you're a good person, why did you do that hurtful thing? If you're smart, why did you make that obvious mistake? If you're in control, why can't you stop this bad habit? Acknowledging the contradiction means updating your self-image. And that's painful. So instead, you rationalize. You reframe. You adjust the story so both things can be true. This protects your ego. It maintains the narrative you've built about yourself. But it also keeps you stuck. Because if you can't see the contradiction, you can't address it. If you're constantly justifying your behavior instead of examining it, nothing changes. The dissonance gets managed. But the underlying issue remains. Cognitive dissonance isn't always bad. Sometimes it's adaptive. It helps you maintain stability when every contradiction would be overwhelming. But chronic dissonance has costs. It keeps you stuck in patterns you know aren't working. You know the relationship is bad. But you rationalize staying. You know the job is draining you. But you convince yourself it's fine. You know the habit is harmful. But you justify continuing. The dissonance lets you hold incompatible truths without addressing either one. It erodes self-trust. When you're constantly rationalizing, you stop being able to distinguish between genuine reasons and convenient excuses. You tell yourself so many adjusted stories that you lose touch with what's actually true. It creates internal dishonesty. You're not lying to others. You're lying to yourself. And over time, that self-deception becomes your baseline. You stop questioning your rationalizations. You just accept them as truth. And the gap between who you think you are and who you actually are widens. So how do you stop? You start noticing the dissonance instead of resolving it. When you feel that uncomfortable tension, the sense that something doesn't quite add up, and don't immediately rationalize it away. Sit with it. Ask yourself, what am I trying to make compatible here? What behavior contradicts my beliefs? What belief am I adjusting to justify my behavior? And then, instead of smoothing it over, acknowledge the contradiction. I say I value my health, but I don't act like it. I believe I'm honest, but I lied in that situation. I want to leave, but I'm choosing to stay. This doesn't mean judging yourself. It just means seeing clearly. Because once you see the dissonance without rationalization, you have a choice. You can change your behavior to match your beliefs. Or you can change your beliefs to match your reality. But you can't do either if you're pretending there's no contradiction. Cognitive dissonance is your brain trying to protect you from discomfort. But sometimes, discomfort is the signal you need. The indicator that something needs to change. And resolving it honestly, not through rationalization, but through alignments, is the only way forward. You're holding contradictions right now. Everyone is. The question isn't whether you have cognitive dissonance. It's whether you're willing to see it. Because once you stop rationalizing and start noticing, the contradictions become obvious. And once they're obvious, you can't ignore them. You have to choose, change the behavior, or change the belief. But at least you're choosing consciously. Not living in a story your brain constructed to keep you comfortable.